Good morning, everybody. Welcome to our webinar with Momentum. Today we're talking about migrating from MYB EXO to MYB Advanced, and we're going to cover that from a few angles for you. So we're going to have an hour, and feel free to ask questions at any time throughout that hour. Our intention is for this to be as informative for you all as possible, and we'll be talking about the payroll side of things, having had the recent payroll end of life announcement for EXO payroll from MYB, as well as whether you're interested or what the options are around moving all of your current EXO to advanced. So just a quick couple of reminders on web meeting etiquette. It does help everybody on sessions like this if we all follow a few general procedures. So one is please mute your microphone. It just stops any background noise coming through and interfering with the speakers. And also, if you do have a question, feel free to unmute and ask the question, but you can also pop questions into the chat, or there's a Q&A icon on the toolbar at the top of Teams as well. We are recording the webinar, and we'll send you all a recording once the webinar's completed. So the agenda for this morning is I'm just going to spend 5 or 10 minutes talking to you about the EXO to Advanced migration offer, why it exists, what it is, and hopefully answer some of the questions you might have. I'm also going to talk a bit about the decision by MYOB to announce end of life for EXO payroll, effective from November 2025, and what that means to you. And then we're going to do a live demonstration of MYOB Advanced, and we're going to cover the ERP in general, but we also will be specifically showing the payroll and an overview of all the main modules that MYOB Advanced has. And then we'll talk about the implementation approach when we're taking an existing customer that we usually know quite well because we implemented EXO for them, and what's involved in moving across to MYOB Advanced. And plenty of time for Q&A at the end. So I'll start with the EXO payroll end of life. So you would have all received emails probably from MYOB as well as from Momentum about two things at the same time, really. So one is that MYOB have decided that EXO payroll will be end of life from November 2025. And so there's a few reasons for that. One is that the payroll part of the EXO suite is older technology than EXO Business and Job Costing and all of the other ERP modules that you might have. So EXO Payroll was developed on a platform or a database platform called FoxPro, which was a Microsoft technology at the time. That platform is no longer supported by Microsoft. Doesn't mean it doesn't work, but it does mean they're not supporting it and they won't do anything to improve it. So MYOB have all the code and everything they need to keep EXO payroll running and to do enhancements to it to keep it compliant. But that's about all that will be happening in EXO payroll between now and November 2025. There's a couple of other considerations as well. It's difficult to incorporate modern security, for example, multi-factor authentication or Azure Active Directory, into a platform like EXO Payroll because it's FoxPro. So it can present a slightly higher security risk than other applications. EXO customers, a lot of our EXO customers are already moving to cloud options. We've got a number of our EXO customers have moved to advanced. So lots of our customers are already telling us and telling MYOB, they're interested in cloud or SaaS software and digital transformation in general. So that's a reason in and of itself. And advanced payroll represents a genuine replacement option for EXO payroll. So when it was first released back in about 2016, I think it was, we would have said it wasn't, but has had a lot of development over the years since then, and in many ways is, or most ways, is in fact a superior payroll solution to your current XO payroll. Obviously, XO Payroll is not just a payroll module. A lot of our clients have some of the other employer services modules, like time and attendance, which is a rostering and awards application, employee information, which is an HR solution, and there's options available for replacing those as well. So a few of the high-level advantages that advanced payroll would have over XO payroll, in my view at least. Firstly, the security. So it has high security, being cloud-based. It's hosted on Amazon Web Services. It has two-factor authentication. So immediately you're in a better place from a security and disaster recovery perspective, because MYOB and Amazon are taking care of all the backups, all the security for you, rather than you needing to be concerned about it on your own server. Functionally, there's a few key things that advanced payroll does that XO payroll doesn't do. So one is it now includes employee onboarding. And so that allows you to initiate a process for a new person that you've just hired, fill out a few basic details and invite them to onboard themselves. And they'll do their TFN deck, bank details, super selection, upload any mandatory documents or certifications that they need to have, all as part of that onboarding process. And they'll be in your payroll system having onboarded themselves. So for employers that do regularly hire new people, that's a great time saver for their HR and payroll people. And it's actually a really good experience for the employee as well. Another thing it does is employee self-service. XO has a module for that called My Staff Info, but it's actually end of life next month, so that's not going to be available in XO going forward anyway. It's free with the advanced payroll module, and that allows employees to log on either on a mobile app or on their browser, look at their leave balances, look at their current details and update them if need be, if they've changed their address or phone number, for example. Make leave requests and have those routed through an approval process to whomever you nominate should be approving them. Have those leave requests automatically brought into the applicable pay period, and they can also access their pay slips through the employee self-service. So you get that, that's a standard feature at no extra cost. The onboarding the same, standard feature, no extra cost, bit of setup. So a few other things that advanced payroll has is, like I said, the mobile app for that employee self-service component. You can create custom leave types in advanced payroll and have those either accrue to an accrual account in the general ledger or not. You can't really do custom leave types in XO payroll. A lot of our non-profit type customers need custom leave types. Custom reports and dashboards can be created in advanced payroll, and that's been a sort of historical challenge with XO payroll. A few other things, so upgrades. Tax scales, for example, are updated in the cloud at end of financial year, and you don't need to do an upgrade at all. Because it's a cloud product, upgrades in themselves are much, much simpler than upgrading your XO payroll, where you need to effectively download a new version onto your server, run an install process, or we do it for you. And there can often be permissions issues on the server with applying those upgrades. So upgrades become very, very seamless when you're using cloud software. And then a few other things. So there is a workforce management module. So this is a separate additional module that not everybody needs, but those who do can have it, which handles award calculations, rostering, time capture through various mechanisms. So there's an MYOB workforce management app, and there's a number of third-party workforce management apps that integrate with advanced payroll through its API. So another thing that Advanced has is an API, and APIs just mean integrations become much easier for third parties to integrate with the software, as well as ourselves. And lastly, stating the obvious, cloud-based software, work from home, no server. You don't need to do a remote desktop connection in. So if you're the payroll person, you don't, and you are working from home, that you don't need to log into the server or do anything. You just open your browser and log in. So those are just a few highlights of advanced payroll compared to Exo payroll. I will state the obvious. So advanced payroll is not Exo payroll in the cloud. It looks different. It works different. We set it up differently. But overall, a very streamlined payroll process, and we'll show that to you. Next, we've got Pankaj, who's going to be doing a live demonstration of MYOB Advanced. And we're going to cover these areas that you see on the slide there. So we're going to start with the ERP and the financial system. One of the key things that Advanced does very well when compared to Exo is if you've got multiple companies, and if you do, you'll have multiple Exo databases, you can combine them all into one MYOB Advanced database, but still have separate financial reporting for each company. We're going to have a close look at the payroll and then an overview of each of the other key modules. So I'll just stop sharing my screen and hand over to Pankaj.
I believe everyone can see my screen.
Yep.
Right. So as Al said, MYOB Advanced is purely cloud-based ERP. So we are not going to install this software to anyone's laptop or desktop or iPad or anywhere. All you need is an internet connection and the URL, which is assigned to your company. So for an example, if your company is ABC, then your URL would be abc.myobadvanced.com. That will be used for all the employees and users who log in. This is the login page where you can have your ID and password up in there. And a little button there below the purple color is basically, it's like 2FA, two-factor authentication, which Al discussed in the beginning. It is more secure. The way it is more secure, it gives you a code to your email or an authenticator app for you to log in. But I'm skipping that part for now. I'll just do simple login, clicking on sign in. So as soon as I sign in, the first thing that I see is my home page, which we can customize to make it as a screen or a report or a dashboard. I would like to see something very colorful as soon as I log in, and give me a good idea about what's going on in that particular department or area of the business or the whole businesses. So this is my dashboard and home page. On the left-hand side, we have all the modules. And on the top there, you see, we have some tools that we use on our day-to-day basis. So I'll just quickly take 30 seconds to explain about the navigation of the system. On the left, as I said, we have all the modules. So if we want to work in any module, we just click on that and it just shows us all the screens and reports and all the menu items involved in it. This is what we call a quick menu. And if I click on show all, it will show me all the other screens and reports, which I do not use on regular basis. I can hide them as a long view, and I just make some of them as my quick view, which I think I work on a daily basis or weekly basis. Similarly, for all the modules that we have, depends on what industry you are in. Manufacturing industry, they would have manufacturing modules, and stuff. Construction would have constructions, and so on, based on the industries. On the top here, it would be your site logo, your company logo that displays your company logo on the left top corner. And this search box here is what we call a global search or universal search. It helps you to search the data within the system. If you're looking for any document, any data, any supplier, customer, or stock profile, if you're looking for any help files, if you have new joinees in the company, he wants to learn for a process and everything, this is the box that you see. So it's like searching the data or entity or anything within the system. For an example, I'm looking for momentum. So the menu items would show me 0 because there is no screen or report that name as momentum or the name involves a momentum word in it. But if I go to transactions and profile, it will just show me that we have a momentum as a customer in the system. We have users who have the momentum in their emails and stuff. So this is like a search engine, which shows me the data accordingly if I need. I can look for any document number as well if I want to, or any attached file in the file sections. How it helps is if you have attached multiple files and you would want to know which document you attached the file yesterday or this morning or last week, but you know the file name, you can easily put the file name here or a part of file name here, and the system will show you under the file sections which transaction it has been attached to. So a very good tool, this one, to look for the menu items. So if I'm looking for chart of accounts, if I click chart of accounts and click on menu items, it'll show me the chart of accounts in here that has a screen in the system. If I want to know how to do customer refund, I'm a new employee and I'm not sure how to do customer refund. I can key in here customer refunds and say help topics, and the system would show me all the related files I can read through, so to see the process of what is customer refund and all. It would just go through all the system. So I can easily, go through these, one of them, to see how to do the process of customer refunds. On that global search, right, it's my history. Like we have history in our web browsing, what websites or what pages we have gone through since, last 2 days, 3 days, or since morning. So this is my history here. So it would show me all the records that I have been, entering in the system, reports I have run, any changes that I did. It would just show me everything in here in my history menu. And if I want to specifically see for a particular module, it shows me that I have done 11 AP document in the last few days. I can easily click that and filter it down. On the right-hand side, it shows me the current business and date, my username, and which tenant I have logged in. And now this is the area where it shows me my multi-entity within the same tenant. So if I have multiple companies, I can structure them and configure them in the system so that they can use suppliers, customers, stock, chart of accounts common, or we can have them separate accordingly. So if you can see, I am actually at the moment in the main company, but if I want to move to Momentum, my other sister company or any other entity that I have, I can easily click on that and it just changes. I don't have to log out from the current company and sign back in by selecting the other company. So now the data that I see here is purely based on that, the other company that I logged in or I switched into. So this is normally the navigation that I'm keen to display at the moment. Now let's go through the financial part at first. So normally what we have is we all have common financials, chart of accounts, budgets, financial statements, and all that thing that we do on a daily basis. But before that, I'll start with the company structure. I will be using this global search most of the time during my demo to search for the file so that we all know how handy it is. So this is how my company structure that I prepare for. So I have my company name here, and then the company type. Basically, this is my purely one entity without any locations or branches. If it has branches, then we can make that as another company which has branches without. So if I'm running a company, I have one branch or one location in Queensland and one in Sydney and so on, multiple locations within Australia. I can treat all of them as branches so that I could do transaction between them or, reporting accordingly.
And just to translate that, Pankaj, sorry to interrupt, just to translate for our EXO customers on the call. So if you currently have multiple companies, you will have multiple EXO databases and data files that you have to log into separately. Advanced will allow you to combine them into one single database. but still keep everything quite separate either from a user perspective or from a reporting perspective if needed, as well as doing consolidation when needed. You can have grouped for GST or not. A branch in Advanced is very much similar to a branch in EXO. So a branch is usually a physically separate office in a different place or a different division within your company. So Advanced, you have company level, and then you have branch level, and then we have multiple levels below that as well, which EXO tends to struggle to do. Sorry to interrupt you, Pankaj. Carry on.
That's okay. That's good. So for each company, you can make multiple ledgers in it. Mostly the ledgers are required to do the budgeting and run our reports where we want the system to show as actual versus budgets. So all our posting into the geo goes into the actual ledgers, but we have provisions to make multiple other kind of ledgers between budgets or statisticals or reporting ledgers, which we can use in our reporting area to see how our company is going through with the budgets versus actuals or statistical ledgers as well. We can change the visual appearance of the company based on some colors here. The reason why I brought on this screen is if I'm in Momentum, you see this the blue highlighted color. So I know whenever it's blue, it's Momentum, even though I can see the name here. But when I move to main company, it changes the color. So sometimes companies, they like this option of having multiple colors by the companies to understand, okay, this is I'm in my main company or my sister company or my other company. So this is my company and branches area that we have. I'll quickly move to something which is very exciting that is called sub-accounts. Sub-accounts basically means the dimensions. Some of your companies call it as dimensions. Some of you call it as cost centers or profit centers, or some of you call it as business units. It's based on each company their own terms. So the main reason of having sub accounts within Advanced is to not have a long list of chart of accounts. I'll just take a quick example of that. Is a company who are having multiple sales accounts, like software sales, hardware sales, installation sales, service sales, and so on. Normally, they would have multiple sales account in their GL. Having introduced the sub-accounts allow them to have only one sales account in the chart of accounts, and then each time they do a sales, they can mark it or assign it to a particular software sales or by region or by product, so on. So it really helps not only with the chart of account to make it less, but in your reporting as well. Just think about if you want to run a profit and loss on your Melbourne branch. I want to see all my Sydney or Melbourne branch, all the transactions, all the P&L. So having sub-accounts configured in that way would help you have that report right away. So you don't have to be filtering or running multiple reports to get the data.
And I might just jump in there as well, Pankaj, again, just to interpret for the EXO people on the call.
Yeah.
So EXO has a feature called a sub-account, but it's completely different. So in EXO, a sub-account only links to a specific general ledger account, and a general ledger account, 5,000 might have sub-account 01, 02, 03. In Advanced, sub-accounts are much more similar to branches in EXO. So they're independent of the chart of accounts, and they represent things like your divisions or revenue streams or internal departments, or a combination of all three. So where EXO sometimes can struggle is if you operate a business and you've got a branch in Mackay and a branch in Brisbane, those would be branches. But if each of those branches then have divisions or profit centers, then in EXO, you kind of just have to create more branches, Mackay revenue stream 1 and Mackay revenue stream 2. Whereas in Advanced, you would use branches for that purpose, branch, and revenue stream or division or department as sub-account, so that you can budget at any of those levels that you want and report at any of those levels that you want.
Thanks, Al. So, yes, So you can create as many segments, as many sub-accounts you want, or you can have one or two based on your purely business requirements there. I will, when I reach out to the sales or any entry area, I'll show you the example of where we use the sub-accounts. Right, and then we have budgets. So budgets basically is to allocate, every financial year starting, you would like to do budgets for your GL account, for your income and expenses, where you want to spend money, where you want to, allocate some budgets for your sales team that, this is what we're expecting revenue and all that area is basically here. I'll quickly just show you the screen of the budgets, how it is. I'll take 2022. So this is where you allocate the budgets to all the account required. Now remember the sub-accounts area, so I can have only one sales account through my chart of accounts, which is this number. And then I want, in our company, allocate this much amount for my New South Wales region, this much amount for my Victoria, West, and so on. And the first three digits allocate about which product or services, if we want to allocate that budget to. So similar way, and it looks like it's lengthy thing to do it here, but the good point is you can always have a template ready in your system. So every end of the financial year, or the beginning of the financial year, whenever you are ready to upload the budget, you can put all the figures in an Excel and upload right away into the advanced instead of entering one by one line here. And then these budgets that you have here can be going through an approval process if required. So your manager can approve it. And then after that, whenever you run your reports and whenever you want to see actual versus budget, it can be easily seen within the system. Now, the backbone of every financial system is the chart of accounts. This is how it looks like in advance. And as Al said, if it is EXO, it's very easy for us to bring the data from EXO to advance with our migration tool. So we won't be, sitting out with you, spending time to prepare the chart of accounts for a particular MYOB thing. Even if we're not using migration tool, we can easily export into Excel. You do all your working and import right away. And then this is how your chart of accounts look here. I am not an EXO expert, but in advance, what I know is that we have some features like control account module, which means we can pre-configure that some of our chart of accounts, for an example, account receivables, can only be used within account receivables module. So if I'm a user, if I'm in accounts payable or journals, if I want to use this account, I cannot use it. That would help to remove any human mistakes or errors while creating those accounting transactions. Similarly, for payables or your stock inventory accounts or your fixed asset account, you can predefine the control module account, which is very good to have a good practice of not posting anything in a wrong module. Now, the question here, one last thing on the chart of account page is, if we have multiple companies, if they are sharing the same chart of accounts, which is good, but if we have different chart of accounts, not all of the chart of accounts are common for those two companies, we can create multiple accounts here, and we can restrict them to be viewed when you switch to the company. Give you a quick example is, I do not want to see the bank account of my other company when I log into the main company. So when I switch to Momentum, I can see that bank account in the chart of accounts and use that in the other banking transactions area. But when I move back to main company, that chart of account is not visible for me. So that's the level of restrictions that MYOB gives when we are running multiple entity. And similar thing goes with the customers and suppliers. We can hide the customers and suppliers visibility based on the branches or the multiple companies. Now, another thing that is quite a good to have in MYOB Advance is intercompany, which means if I am creating a purchase order to my other company, I do not want to spend time, switch to the other company and create a sales orders for that. And when I do shipments there, I don't want to come back to this company, spend time to do receives of goods. So we have now provisions within MYOB Advanced that is called intercompany transactions, where if I create a purchase order to my other company, I'll just type it. So for an example, this one, take a copy. And I do paste. Move hold and I save. Right. So I am creating this purchase order. I want some admin services. I want to provide some admin services to my other company, which is Momentum. So now the normal process is someone has to log in or switch to Momentum company, go to the sales orders or create a sales orders and stuff. But instead of that, we have something called generate intercompany sales orders. And we can automate that as well. So we don't even have to worry about creating it manually. So you see, this is the two orders that is created. All we need to do is click this and click process. So what system does is system will create a sales order in the Momentum company saying that, we need the admin services from my main company. And then similar thing is when we deliver the services from Momentum to this company, then we have something called generate intercompany purchase receipt, which means as soon as we do shipments or delivery from Momentum, system automatically creates here, or even we can manually create here a purchase receipt that yes, we have received the services or goods. Sorry.
I might just jump in there as well very quickly, Pankaj. So the scenario that the intercompany transactions covers is if you have multiple companies in your group and they trade with each other in any way, doesn't need to be through sales orders as purchase orders. If company A is your employment company and it cross charges company B for those services just by way of an invoice, then the opposing transaction in the other company gets automated for you. So you can create a sales invoice in one company, it will automatically become a purchase invoice in the other company. And it can be done through sales and purchase orders as well. So again, it makes that if you have multiple legal entities or accounting entities in your group and multiple files, it makes that a lot more efficient. Just conscious of time, Pankaj, so let's move on to payroll.
Yes, I'm gonna do that now. So the payroll, you see a lot of menus in here for the payrolls, but it's all configurable. You need to just configure them one time so that after it is configured and tested, all you need is to just create pay, release pay, upload the batches to the bank, and then do some adjustments based on each employee if you want to do it. Now, for that, what I'm going to do now is quickly show you the payroll menu. So this is all the payroll menus. We have something called tiles on the top, which is our day-to-day or every week that we are doing it already. So if I want to create a new pay every week on Thursday or Wednesday, I go here. If I want to check an employee details, I go here. If there is a change in an employee pay details or just view, I go here. And an employee leave, if I want to have a quick look on the employee leaves, where are they standing at the moment? So some of the things that I created as a process tiles on the top. But otherwise, we have all the menus down in here. To create a pay item, we just go to the pay items. What is it called, Al, in EXO, the pay item? Is it the same pay item or it has on some other term?
The payroll configuration in EXO spans a few different areas. So you have pay rates, payroll multipliers, allowances, and deductions, all in 4 separate screens. And largely, those are all pay items in advanced.
Yes. Okay, so this is how a pay item looks like. So normally if I'm creating a pay item for my wages, I just give a pay item ID, the type of it, standard taxable, standard PAYG. I tell it this is a standard rate, the rate multiplier, the full number of units per, and then unit type is hours. Any additional info, which is, tagging it to my GL postings here. And do we want to show this on our pay slips? Do we want to show the calculated dollar value? In some of the settings that, and the membership actually shows me what are the employees that belongs to this wages pay item. So whenever we create a pay, their wages calculates on these pay items. So this is how a pay item is created in the system. You can create any type of pay item, income, expenses, or accruals and stuff. Now quickly go that to pay groups. So pay group is basically you are telling system that I want to do my monthly pay run, weekly pay run, or a commission pay run, or separate pay run for my casual employees or contractual employees and stuff. It is us how we want to configure it. So if I go in my monthly pay run, these are all my employees, and this is the standard configuration of that. So monthly we're doing 164.6 hours, yearly this much, per day this much. And if we want to go through each employee pay details, as I mentioned, we go employee pay details that shows each employee's standard pay, how it calculates, what are the pay items involved to calculate his pay. Take a quick example of this employee. So this employee, Albert James, these are all the pay items that includes in his pay. This is the pay group, and this is the hours per pay or his standard salary here. Even if we put annual salary or daily rate, system calculates the other part of it. If it has special rates for any special occasions, we can have different rates here for this employee, and some other settings by taxation with TFN numbers and all the other stuff. Pay distribution is just the bank account in which how he wants to get his pay, one bank account or two bank account. It's all based on employee needs. Right. So quickly show you the process of how we do pay. So normally what we do is we go to the new pay, click there on the tile, it asks us which pay you want to do run. So I'll just say completed pay to show you the one I just created yesterday, this one. Normally I'll just say create pay, and then system will ask me, do you want to do your commission pay or monthly pay? I said I want to do my monthly pay. It automatically takes the next available dates for that pay. So for 1st of August to 31st of August, I just click OK. Now what system does is system will now include all the employees that belongs to that monthly pay group, and then start processing their pay. Based on the number of employees. If it's less employees, it just take a few seconds. If it is more employees, it takes about 15, 20 seconds or 25 seconds for that, based on the number of employees. So we got 33 employees in there. System created a new pay for me. Now I click open, and it shows me all the employees in there with their standard pay and all the calculations that is predefined for them. Now we have other options. If we are doing timesheets, if we want to bring their time from a different sources, from an Excel or from other systems, we have option of import timesheets, which means that whatever they spend time on, we can easily have that here, and the system will calculate based on their standard rates and things. If we have public holiday, we have that option in the system. So system, you just need to click on import public holidays, and system will automatically add that public holiday for all employees within that month. And you don't have to be doing manual deductions or manual things on those holidays and leaves. We have ESS in the system where your employee can go and apply for leave. If I go to payroll, we have called ESS, employee self-service. So your employee can access this through laptop or a phone. He can do a leave request, he can check leave balances, he can update his contact information, his pay distributions, if you want to change your bank account and everything, he can do it. He can download the pay slips, so it won't bother you as a payroll person to send them emails or allow to download the pay slips and send to them separately. They will have access to the system now, and they can download the information or update the information themselves. I'll quickly go that after going through this one. So this is my pay. If I'm all good with the pay, I'm happy with my gross taxable and everything. I'll just click there. It will just show me my total taxes. This is my number of employee. I'm all good with this one. I'll just click on process, and then system will complete the pay and allow me to generate a batch. What I'll do is go to the one that I did yesterday for the same employees, but this is for the month of July. So you see this all created. The payslip have been attached to all the employees. If we want to quickly show you one payslip, so this is the format, the standard format of the payslip that looks like. Purely customizable. If you want to include more things or hide things from the payslips or want to have a separate format, this can be done as well. So once your pay is completed and everything is done, it just goes to your super batches. I'll just quickly show this one, batch payments here. So this is the batch payment that's automatically generated when your pay is complete. Now you can click on export to download the ABA file, and then you put into your bank. So this is your ABA file that looks like, and I think that's the common ABA for all the banks to accept. Now, once this is done, you just release that, and then you have an options of pay slips to send pay slips through the system. If your employees are not using employee self-services, so you can email the pay slips, or you can print the pay slips according to you. It's almost all the employees selected. Just click the button process, and then system will start sending emails to all the employees, attaching the pay slips to them. Quickly take one thing here as leave request. So if I'm an employee, I want to do a leave request, pretty standard. I click on plus button and I just select which leave type I want to. Well, I haven't configured yet for this one, but which leave type is it sick leave or annual leave or whatever leave type is it, 1 or more full days. You put the information, is put commands. If you want to attach something to that, you can browse and attach to this, save and submit. That will send that to your supervisor to have a look. He approves it. You take your holiday, you take your leave.
So I might just jump in there,
Yeah.
Pankaj. So yeah, the leave approval workflow can be quite sophisticated. So it can go to 2 approvers if need be, line manager and then payroll manager, for example. And the managers can look at projected leave balances as well as the previously approved leave in a calendar format for their team members. Just conscious of time, so that showed you a simple pay processing within payroll.
Right.
And the key items, obviously it's single STP compliant, so it will transmit your single touch payroll batch to the ATO. You can pay your super through MYOB Pay Super or any super clearinghouse you like. So we might just now do a skim through the other modules in about 10 minutes, and then we'll talk about the process to move from EXO to Advance. So let's just start with distribution module. So for those on the call who are in wholesale distribution, managing inventory, so we're talking about dealing with sales and purchases and management of inventory in general. So in Advance, you can have multiple warehouses, and let's just go to a warehouse. Warehouses can actually be separated into warehouse buildings within the software if needed, but you can handle multiple warehouses. And within each warehouse, you can set up your warehouse locations or bins, as those are commonly called. And there's a few things around that Advanced does handle that EXO would not. You can have the same product in multiple bins in the same warehouse. So you can have a storage location or a bulk location and a picking location, for example. EXO can't really do that. And you can also choose the properties that each location allows you to do. So you can have a quarantine or faulty goods location that you can receive into but not sell from, for example. Let's look at a stock item, Pankaj.
Yes.
So similar to EXO, stock items have a lot of different properties, one of which is the item class. And item classes are used to sort of create a hierarchy of inventory items in your database. And they also cause a lot of defaults to set up. So just drill into any item.
Yes.
So in EXO, you have a stock group, a primary and a secondary stock group. In Advanced, that would be an item class. And in fact, in Advanced, you can create a hierarchical tree of item classes if you need to.
Yes.
The other thing that Advanced does very nicely that would extend what's possible in EXO is unit of measure. So in EXO, you have a base unit of measure, which is the unit that you sell a product in. And you can have multiple different purchasing units of measure where you might buy it from different suppliers and one supplier sells it to you in a pallet and another supplier sells it to you in a box. Advanced takes that multiple steps further where you can have the same product that you might sell in multiple units of measure. You might sell it in eaches as well as boxes and have two different prices for the same stock code in the system, and the same on the purchasing side. And you can set up conversions between the units. So, 100 eaches goes into a box, for example.
Yeah.
The pricing is very sophisticated. So you can have discount structures, different price levels, different pricing for specific customers, or different pricing for different customer groups. So we won't cover that, but there's a lot of functionality there. If an item is a manufactured item and has a bill of material in the manufacturing system, there's a reference here. You can have multiple, each stock on hand in each warehouse would be shown on the warehouses tab, and also what location in which warehouse it's in.
Yes.
Suppliers. So like EXO, you can have multiple suppliers for the same product with different units of measure, different stock codes. But in Advanced, you can add a few extra things like minimum order frequency, lead time, both at the supplier level and at the product level. So the supplier might have a lead time of 7 days, but some products is 10, for example. And a lot of additional functionality. So cross-reference items, a scenario happens reasonably commonly where you're selling an item to a customer, but on your invoice, your customer wants to see their stock code for that product, not yours. You can do that in Advanced standard feature.
Yes.
And this is also where you might store barcodes. So you might have an each barcode, a box barcode, and a pallet barcode, all in your cross-reference items. Sales and purchases, we won't show in a huge amount of detail. Replenishment is a strong feature of Advanced where you can run replenishment across all the items in a warehouse or for a supplier. Now, doing that in EXO, the equivalent feature would be a forecast purchase order, which you can only do one supplier at a time. So in Advanced, you can run replenishment for the whole warehouse. The process will consider all the demand, so sales orders in the system, purchase orders already in the system, min-max safety stock, current stock on hand, and then calculate what you need to order and create all the purchase orders for all the suppliers in one go. You can then run that for an approval process or still check it, so you don't necessarily have to automate it and send them. Usually your purchasing or replenishment people would be wanting to scrutinize them further. But this certainly takes a huge amount of the effort, manual effort, out of the process to generate replenishment orders from your suppliers.
Right.
Okay. Sorry, Pankaj.
Yeah, I'm saying we can automate that too. So this is the main of the highlights of the inventory or warehouse module that we can show at this time. But there are quite more things which we can have separate demos accordingly.
Correct. And all these modules, we're doing a very quick brush through. It would take some additional hours to do a detailed demonstration of them. Let's look very quickly at CRM. So EXO has a CRM module. Advanced has a very good CRM module that allows you to manage both your customers and your prospective customers.
Yep.
Manage opportunities for those customers. So an opportunity is a potential sale or potential new customer. One nice thing about opportunities in Advanced is you could have different opportunity types that have a different workflow or different stages that they go through, which different salespeople might work on and have a different process. The other thing you can do through an opportunity is issue quotes. So those could be sales quotes or project quotes, depending on the type of business that you are. If you're selling inventory, that would be a sales quote. If you're a project-based business, it would be a project quote.
Right.
When you do a sales quote, you can then do multiple revisions of that quote. So if the customer doesn't accept your first quote, rather than editing the original, you can leave that there and create a revision of that quote, send them revision A, and then if they accept that one, you'll turn that into a sales order. They might ask you to revert back to the first quote you did, which you can also do. So the quoting is probably more flexible, a bit more superior, and any accepted quote, whether it's a sales quote or a project quote, then moves into the system as the next part of the process, being a sales order or a project.
Yeah.
Let's look very quickly. Sorry, Pankaj, go ahead.
Yeah, just taking 10 seconds here to show one thing, if you could see. So the Outlook adding is also available for your salespeople to do that. So what it helps is if you receive an email from a prospect or from a leader from an opportunity, and you want to create that right away from your Outlook instead of going into, so you have that MYOB Advanced add-in available that integrates with your Outlook, where you can select the email and then click on the button and then allow MYOB Advanced this area to search for that. If it is not available, then you can create it as a lead or anything. You can see I don't have anything in that info at Central. So it looks for the email. We can create a lead or create a contact right away from here. And then it is available in your MYOB Advanced here. So that's another feature for all the salespeople. They like it, so they can easily use Outlook right away.
And in fact, all people can use that because you can log emails from and to your existing customers, whether it's relating to accounts or projects that you're working on, all through the Outlook add-in. So great for sales, but also can be used by other people. Let's quickly touch on the manufacturing module.
Right on.
So manufacturing, EXO handles manufacturing two ways. One is a work order, which is a very simple bill of material and what I would describe as a very simple manufacturing or assembly process, or you can do it through the job costing module. Advanced has a very sophisticated manufacturing module where you set up work centers. Let's have a quick look at work centers. So typically in manufacturing, things move through your factory or workshop, and areas of the workshop, usually where machines are set up as work centers. So in Advanced, you can set up all of those work centers. You can set up the machines that exist in those work centers. You can set up how many people should be working in that work center and what your capacity is. And you can even set up overhead. So different machines might consume more electricity, for example, and therefore accrue additional overhead costs in your manufacturing process. Once you've set up all your work centers, then you can have a bill of material. And a bill of material in Advance, which is the recipe to manufacture or make something, is more than just the recipe. It's it's also the routing steps or the process that is done when you manufacture an item in your factory or workshop. So for example, in this bill of material, the top part of the screen are what we call operations. So the operations are the tasks or activities that get done in different work centers in your factory. And you can set up a number of settings around each of those operations, how long it takes, what setup time is involved, is there going to be scrap, etc. And then the bottom part of the screen is what raw materials are consumed in that routing step or in that operation, as well as the steps, which is instructions that you might print on your job card or production ticket, tools that might be used, and any specific overheads that might just apply, but also outside process. So if you send something out for powder coating or galvanizing, for example, then that can be an outside process, and a purchase order will link to your production system for that.
Yes.
Let's just go to a production order very quickly, Pankaj.
Yeah.
And we'll simply show one of the really nice things about manufacturing in advanced is the actuals to budget on each production. So we can do a lot of scheduling. There's a graphical calendar board to allow you to do the scheduling, which we would cover in a specific manufacturing demo. But let's just jump into a production order very quickly and go to the totals. So the totals shows you a breakdown of each thing that you've made, each production, what the plan costs were, breaking down into labor, material, machine time, total cost, overheads, what the actuals were, and what the variance is. Very difficult to get that granular level of detail in EXO if you're doing manufacturing or fabrication type work. So we might just pause there. There's two modules that we didn't go through. One is the project module, which I guess would be the equivalent of your job costing module in EXO. And then the other is a field service module, which allows you, it's like a jobbing module, but designed more for mobile work, where you've got people in the field, potentially in vans, doing scheduled and unscheduled work for your customers, and includes a equipment register of the equipment they would be servicing, similar to the serviceable units module of EXO. So I might just share my screen.
Sure.
Obviously difficult to demonstrate every single module in 40 minutes, but we really wanted to focus on the financials and the multi-entity and the payroll, because those I think are key things that potentially everybody would have an interest in. And the other modules depends on your industry, right? So I'm just going to go through now, I guess, a couple of discussion points about what happens when we're migrating somebody from EXO to advanced. Well, in a lot of ways, it's a very similar process to how we implemented EXO in the first place, right? We did still need to do a scoping and discovery session, because businesses change and we wouldn't want to assume that you work the same way now that you did 10 years ago. So we need to understand your processes, how you're using EXO, and how that's going to translate to EXO, to advanced. Then we're going to build a test system for you and configure it. So that's partly configuration and partly data conversion, right? And the data conversion we can do much more efficiently than if you were coming off a different system. And then we go through that testing and refining process, getting feedback from you. When things are, say, 90% ready, that's when your larger group of people or users would then have training. So the training we want them to have in a fully working system or 90% complete, so that they have a good experience. Then they can practice and test, and then get ready to go live. What sort of time frame would that happen in? Well, it depends what modules we're doing. Payroll we can do in a few weeks or a month. Depends on size of payroll. If you're just doing financials, again, depending on how many entities, that might take 2 to 3 months. If you're doing inventory and distribution, that part might take 2 to 3 months, and partly would run concurrently with financials. But for example, you can't start putting stock items in the system until you've put suppliers in, and you can't put suppliers in until you've got a chart of accounts. So things happen obviously in a logical flow. Other modules like manufacturing or CRM or projects can be done at different times depending on what works best for you. Not all modules are dependent on each other. So it could be anywhere between a 3 or 4 month project or a 5 or 6 or 7 month project, depending on size and complexity and scope of modules that we're doing. And the areas I've highlighted here may be a little difficult to read, but this is the sort of key phases that we go through. So early on, there's going to be cleansing of data. Now, we can extract data for you to check. For example, your customer information or your stock item information or your supplier information might be in a bit of a mess and need cleaning up, which is you could do it in your existing Exo system, or you could do it in Excel and we can extract it for you first. So the things that we can speed up is data conversion, training. If you attend some of the online training, then that can reduce the training costs for the part that we do. And also the final data conversion, which is again, taking data from Exo, either Exo Business or Exo Payroll or both, or job costing, wherever it's coming from, and extract that in an importable format for Advance to streamline that part of the implementation. So there is an MYOB Academy, and we'll include the URL for that MYOB Advanced Academy. And it covers many of the basics of using MYOB Advanced on a day-to-day basis. Not all modules, but the key modules. Payroll especially, financials, sales orders, purchase orders, manufacturing. We would normally do that training because it tends to be very specific to your process. So data conversion, we've talked about a bit. Obviously, the things that you must have when you're moving from one system to another is your master file data. So your chart of accounts, customers, suppliers, contacts, stock items, employees. You need opening balances when you are ready to start training, as well as when you go live. So your general ledger history brought across. Your customer invoices and credits, so you can collect your money, send them statements. Your unpaid supplier invoices and any credits, so that you can pay your bills. Your stock on hand if you have inventory, your opening bank rec. And then depending on what type of business you are and what modules you've got, open sales orders and purchase orders, active jobs, open records in CRM like quotes and opportunities. And from a payroll perspective, you obviously need your employees, all your super funds, pay items, entitlement balances, and we always do 2 parallel pays to reconcile back to Exo for that. Just conscious of time, we're 10 minutes over, so I'll discuss these very quickly. So do you get all the history? Short answer is, and by history I mean every invoice I've ever invoiced my customer in Exo, or every sale of a stock item that I've had. So the short answer is usually not, due to the cost. The systems are very different, so to migrate that history becomes a very time-consuming and complex process, and not as beneficial as people might think. And there are options of reporting from both your old system and your new system via a business intelligence or reporting tool. And there's a number of those around. So that makes the data conversion question, or bringing the history question, somewhat less important, because so long as you can see it or access it easily, it doesn't really matter what system it's sitting in, if that makes sense. So aside from solving the question, or answering the question of how can I report on my historical data, reporting tools or business intelligence tools also give you the ability to connect to other data sources besides your financial system. You might have non-financial systems that you want reports or dashboards from, but all in one place for your exec team, for example. And many of them enable you to create your own reports and dashboards somewhat more easily than what you might in an ERP. So there's a range of potential solutions that could be used or can be used and are used regularly from a reporting perspective. And which one would work best for you, we'd have a discussion about. And so that's it for today. We do have time for as long as you like to answer any questions. We have covered on our website a lot of frequently asked questions about the migration offer that MYOB have put forward, and also the payroll end of life questions. So feel free to put your hand up or unmute your microphone and fire away.
Al, it's James from BX. Obviously, Arco's one of our businesses.
Yes, hey, James.
Quick question. Is that slide going to be emailed to everyone, or is that or the link if I copy that?
Yes, the link will be emailed to everybody, and also a link to the Advanced Academy for training.
Yep. Okay. And I assume it's an Australian. If we have a New Zealand businesses, do you know anything related to that, or is that another conversation?
I can give you a quick answer. The short answer is Advanced can run a New Zealand business as well as an Australian business. If the New Zealand business needs payroll, that might need to be in a separate tenant. But we have customers already who've got an Australian entity and, in fact, multiple foreign entities, be they New Zealand. We're doing one at the moment. We've got a couple in USA. And you can still have them in a single database if you wish.
Yep. Okay. All right. No, that's I'll get that link and we might have a further chat after this. Yep.
Okay. Thanks for the question. The link to the migration offer, we'll send all that around to you. Most of you would have already received an email about it, and what's on the website already answers most of those questions. So how long is the commercial offer available for? What does it cover, depending on what modules you choose to implement, if any? And lastly, from a payroll perspective, as we say, the end of life is 2025. So you don't have to do something now, but you'll need to do something before then. But it's not a bad way to get started. So you can implement advanced payroll only and leave the rest of EXO in place. You would just be doing a journal at the end of each pay to update your general ledger. But we already have a number of customers doing that. Oh, so I've got a question from Joss. Estimated end of life for EXO Business or EXONET? Good question. MYOB have not made any formal announcement about that. Our best guess is it's at least 5 years away. The reason I say that is there are roughly 3,500 businesses around Australia and New Zealand using EXO Business. So just the exercise in migrating those businesses to Advanced is going to take a while. So no short-term plans to announce end of life for EXONET. But it would be stating the obvious to say that MYOB, like just about every other software company, are heading very clearly towards cloud software, not server or desktop software. All right, well, I think we've had a couple of good questions there, so hopefully that helped. Obviously, our main intention is to inform you with what your options are, help you learn a bit more about Advanced and what it looks like and what it does. We wouldn't expect anybody to make a buying decision off a very brief demonstration like that. So if you are ready to talk to us, then we'd do a much more deep dive session with you. There are videos of all the modules on our website. So if you want to research in your own time, if you go to our website, there's videos of the onboarding of payroll, the manufacturing module, projects module. There's a video for just about every part of MYOB Advanced. So that's not a bad way of checking it out a little bit as well. So I'll wrap it up there. I want to thank you all for attending and also for staying on a little bit longer than we planned. And we will send around the recording and information from this session shortly thereafter. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, everybody.